Okay, I am going to officially open up the 10/13/2021 Town of Bridgewater Finance Committee meeting. I'm going to call to order at 7 p.m. exactly. Our first order of business of the last meeting minutes from our last meeting. Do we have any questions, comments?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Josh, a quick roll call.
Nate,
Aye.
Leah,
I'm going to abstain because I was not there.
sure. Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I don't see a microphone. Oh, there he is. Still on silent there, mute. There you go, Rick.
Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Good, yourself?
All right.
I'm all right. I want to apologize. I'm driving, so I'll be sure to unmute myself when it's time to speak.
Okay, and what was your vote for the minutes?
We're just approving the minutes, Rick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, our next order of business is public comment. I would ask that if we have any public comment, that you state your name and your street address. Any public comments? Okay, not hearing any, and I don't see any names here either. We will move on to our first order of new business, which is FY 22-014. The adoption of the Plymouth County OPEB Trust Program. Tony, I know some of us more seasoned members have heard about this, but if maybe you can go into some detail for our newer members.
Yes, so the OPEB, you can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the OPEB trust is for other post-employee benefits. So right now, the town has taken upon itself, it's not required by law, to begin to put some monies away in the other post-employee benefits, which is mainly made up of the town share of the cost for health insurance for retirees. So there's no legal mandate to fund the unfunded liability. So the unfunded liability would be for those individuals where we did not put money away and they've retired, and the future individuals that would retire, we're not putting away on an annual basis the liability for the town's contribution. What we are doing in this for new members, the other liability that we've been working on, and there's a mandate on, and it will be fully funded, is the pension benefit. So if you think of it, individuals didn't pay into pension 20 years ago, or they paid in a small portion of it, and the town never contributed anything towards their pension at the time. Therefore, we created an unfunded liability. All right. So there was a mandate put in place back, I want to say 2001 or 2, that said all municipalities have to fund their unfunded liability over a scheduled period of time. All right. So we in fact embarked on that, and we will be close to funding our unfunded liability, part of our pension. Actually, our goal is to meet that by 2028. All right. So that was one piece of the equation. The assessment that we get every year for our post retirement benefits, our contribution for the unfunded liability is 90% of roughly a $3 million bill. So in 2028, we're going to free up 90% of that $3 million bill. At that point in time, I believe, or close to that, the cities and towns will get a mandate to fund the OPEB, the other post-employee benefits. And that's when the town will begin to move more money, and you're going to see this in the free cash allocation, into that type of reserve and investment account. so that we will have a schedule of when we will fund that unfunded liability. So we're at this time, we're looking at who we're investing our money with, although we have a small amount, relatively speaking, towards the liability. And we found that this Peacock group, which is being formed by Plymouth County and some extended outside of Plymouth County cities and towns, and we're going to get the benefit of our investment power together, and we are going to, what we think is maximize our return on our investment within the legal authority of the town to invest, and minimize our blended administrative fees. So because we're joining this group, it requires a vote of town council to ratify our involvement with this particular investment group, Peacock. Now, we already have money with another financial institution, which didn't require a vote of the council because they're not a quasi organization as this is, Plymouth County, Peacock. I'll just use the acronym. But the town manager and I both feel that this is a good place to and a good group to work with in order to invest our funds. The bank that's affiliated with this, because the bank is really our advisor on our investment, is US Bank. So it's not that Peacock is making the decisions on our investments. It's our particular investments as a town of Bridgewater with our financial advisor of PARS and US Bank, where we will set up our portfolio the way we see fit, and we will have an investment policy that speaks to that. We already do have an investment policy, but we'll update it so that it speaks to US Bank as the investment arm. And so this allows us to get that, for us to join that group. Hopefully I didn't bore you to death with that, but I thought I had to give you some background.
No,
Thanks,
thank you,
Oh,
Tony.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead, Rick.
No, I was, thank you, Tony. I appreciate the background. So this is considered for Plymouth County. What other counties are involved in this? If I'm hearing you correctly, are there other counties involved in this?
No.
Sort of like this joint venture?
Yeah, so it is mainly Plymouth County. It was formed by and the whole idea came about through our commissioners at the Plymouth County. But we have, in order to build the group, we have offered it to a few towns out. They have offered it to a few towns outside of Plymouth County. Not every city or town has joined this. There's about 30. I think the listing is. So this program sponsored by Plymouth County, a trust administrators and consultant is PARS, and a trustee and custodian is US Bank. And I think it's 30. Please forgive me if I am traveling tonight as well. If I don't have the exact number, I will get that for you. But it's a voluntary basis. And
Okay.
there are one or two other communities outside Plymouth County who have asked to join. So there's no restriction there.
Okay, thank you.
You know, Tony, and the question I had for you actually is answered in the resolution. The fund is not intended to create any new vested right to any benefit or strengthening any vested right. So I can see that lines it too. Okay,
Nate, I had a couple questions.
go right ahead.
Right. Tony, thanks for coming tonight. I did have a couple of questions regarding the Peacock. As it relates to Plymouth County retirement, is this going to remain separate from Plymouth County retirement system itself? And
Yes,
also
yes.
the other question is because it's going to be a quasi-public basis, are they going to do public meetings for disclosures or any types of like meetings that you would usually have typically with a quasi-public agency?
Yeah, it's called the Peacock Investment Committee. It is an entity, Plymouth County OPEB Trust, Peacock. And yes, they would fall under any particular guidelines. As far as where our money and how our money gets invested, we work with PARS and we work with US Bank. So even though there is this umbrella for administrative purposes, we have final say. And then as it relates to it being connected to Plymouth County, it is not. It's just a sponsored program by Plymouth County.
So I guess then my follow-up question, is it operating almost similar to the way the GIC works?
I couldn't speak to the GIC. That's health insurance. This is just retirement. This is just look at it this way. Right now, there are individuals that are retired that get health insurance and the town pays a portion. Now, if we had funded the liability for that retiree 20 years ago, year after year, then we wouldn't be taking it out of our budget. So let's say 50% of our health insurance budget is for retirees. In essence, that's part of the unfunded liability. So we're putting money aside to begin to put away funds that will pay for retirees in the future.
Okay,
So it's really our own nest egg in order to fund retiree health insurance.
Now, Tony, say we have a year that we can't fund it. Do we have to fund it every year?
No. Nope. There's been, again, we're doing this on a voluntary basis. We're not required. We are showing good faith. Most communities are doing what we're doing. They're putting in $50,000 or $100,000 a year. As I said, there'll come a time, the trigger is when we are fully funded with the same sort of issue under the pension system, and we have now available funds of upwards to, $3 million. The mandate will probably come down that we have to fund this, and then we will be required to put in a certain amount in order to pay down the unfunded liability by a particular date.
Okay.
So one thing I can forward it to this group is we have a report done by our advisors who do an analysis of our unfunded liability based on our current actuarial information that they get and they run through. So what I can provide you with a copy of that report so that you can be aware of, it's a rather large nut. We're talking $35 million of unfunded liability.
Okay.
And if I had told you what the unfunded liability was for our pension, X number of years ago, you probably would have thrown up too.
I know it's something that's been chipped away at here.
Yep. And it's just a small contribution. Like I said, probably after I retire, the next finance director will work with the town to figure out and work with the legislation that gets passed to begin to fund this particular unfunded liability. But this is where we want to invest it. We put in $500,000 worth of principal starting in, we started making contributions in 2015 or 16. That investment is now valued at $850,000. So we are getting a return.
I have a follow-up question, Tony. Is this? I just want to get clarity. If I'm not mistaken, I think I heard you say this is for town employees.
That's correct.
And are we looking to retroactive any town employees who may have retired and didn't get a pension from this sort of
Nope.
retirement fund, or
Nope.
this is moving forward?
This is moving forward so that we start to put money away to really play catch up. It's really our funding of what we should have been putting away all along for those employees that retire. So they don't lose the benefit. What happens now, and you'll see it in our health insurance budget, let's say 50% of our health insurance budget, I'm stretching a little bit, is paying for the town's share of the health insurance for retirees. Now, if we had put our money away 20 years ago and some amount of money in an investment before that individual retired, we would have the money in the bank to draw down and use as a funding source for that liability. We don't, so we use general fund revenue in order to fund that liability. Does that clarify it, or did I muddy it even further?
No, I certainly understand that this is a moving forward program. I guess the next thought that I have is, current town employees, do they not have any retirement plans already set up where the town matches that? And is this going to serve as sort of an additional retirement package for town employees? I'm just trying to
Okay.
understand and circumvent,
Yeah.
this program.
So here's the two pieces of your pension. Right now, you can use myself as an example, because I was hired past the years where the employees were guaranteed a pension and they didn't put anything into it. The town used a pay-as-you-go methodology for funding. When someone started to retire, they paid into the pension system so that individual could get paid. That was the old way. Now, an employee like myself, what I put in funds 99% of my retirement. There's no town match.
Okay.
On the health insurance side, the town in my contract and the town in other contracts says when you retire, we will contribute to a portion of your health insurance costs when you retire. That's where the town pays out you would say a benefit that they're contributing to.
Okay.
Does that clarify it a little bit?
It does. Thank you for using yourself as an example.
You're welcome.
All right, does anybody else have a question for Tony? Comment?
I just had one question. Thanks for providing this additional insight in the background on it, Tony. I was just curious, what's the oversight, I guess, that the committee will be providing? Because I know you mentioned the town, and will ultimately have kind of the final say in what's being done and the kind of the investment. What's the oversight, I guess, that they're going to be doing?
I think the only reason why there was a group sponsor was, hey, maybe we should get cities and towns together in order to plan for and start to think more long-term with this other liability. The whole oversight is really myself, the treasurer, our trust administrator and consultant, and US Bank, just as it is today with Bartholomew, who is our investment bank and custodian. So
Thanks
they're
for
more
that
just
clarification. I appreciate it.
yeah, more of an organizational body. There is and looking to build the group. They're trying to make sure our costs for administration are as low as they possibly can be.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Tony? Any comments, further discussion? All right, the chair will entertain a motion then.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, MJ.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Josh, if you could do a roll call for us, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will move on to our next order of business, which is FY 22-015 Transfer order, general fund, free cash allocations to trust funds. Pretty plain vanilla as it gets, I would say, but Tony, if you could give us a quick walkthrough.
Yeah, I would just maybe give a little insight to the new members. So each year, when we say free cash, let's not even use that term. Let's just say this is surplus revenue and expense, meaning we didn't expend what we thought we were going to expend for the year for the operating budget. And a large driver on that is our inability to hire employees. So we did have a surplus there. And on the budget side for revenue, we received and were able to collect more than what we had budgeted for. That's really driven by what we refer to as local receipts, because that's really the group of let's call it revenue group that really significantly contributed to this surplus. So let's say 3 million was on the revenue side roughly, and 1 million was on the expense side. So at the end of the year, we had surplus. You would refer to it in business terms as retained earnings, okay? In municipal, it's your fund balance that is available for appropriation, and the nomenclature in the municipal world is free cash. It's not free and it's not cash. It's really available funds for appropriation. What we have done when I came on board is established an annual transfer and move those funds into the 4 buckets that are before you. And that's what this order is intended to do. I can give more details on where the surplus came from. I can also give some insight on the capital or any of the other funds that you would like.
You know,
Me
one
too.
thing, Tony, I was gonna suggest, maybe if, you know, I see we actually have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different trust funds. Maybe if you want to just, especially for the newer members, just give us a quick, you know, what each one of those funds are.
Okay, so the capital trust fund is just that. It's for pay-as-you-go capital equipment expenditures. So you'll be getting an order for some capital equipment. It's a second part of our order that we put forward. We put half of it forward in May. We're going to put another half of that order for really to finish 21. You will get a copy of the entire capital improvement program with the budget process that looks out 5 years, but we're really in the capital stabilization talking about paying for a police cruiser, leasing, let's say, and when I say lease, it's really what's referred to as a capital lease or a lease purchase. It's not like if I lease my car and after 3 years I turn the car in. It's some equipment we get a lease purchase, and so after 3 years of making the payment, it has a dollar buyout. So in fact, a lease snow plow or a sidewalk plow, or in order to do major repairs to some of the windows or maybe a roof where we don't have to go out and bond, we consider those cash items. So that's the capital trust fund. The Opeb liability trust fund is the one that I referred to a second ago. It's where we hold that money that we contribute, that 850,000. It sits in a special fund, and we make contributions to that on an annual basis. Right now, we're making a contribution of 100, and that's what we've done for the last, well, now this will be the 6th year. Employer liability trust fund. I think you had an order last week that talked about that funded sick leave buyback. And in fact, you probably were also informed that we have negotiated that out of our agreements for employees going forward, and that would depend on a particular contract when that go forward date was established. But in fact, we have to pay for sick leave that was on the books for some employees, and this is the majority of what this fund pays for. I would say 95% of what we put in this fund. Now, we have a number of individuals that we anticipate retiring over the next 3 years. So we want to begin to build this trust so that we have those funds available in order to make the transfers, in order to pay out those employees that retire. The stabilization trust fund is really your general fund stabilization. This is what's referred to in governmental or municipal organizations as the rainy day fund. So we set a goal to have 10% of our operating budget put aside in case there were economic conditions that forced that impacted our revenue in such a way that we would have to draw on our stabilization fund in order to offset that economic downturn. And so that's the standard that's really in most, I'd say the benchmark in most municipalities. If you can get to 10%, I'll put that in a very, very good rating. So that's what that is. One-time unforeseen. So in municipal government, once you set your operating budget, you have once a year, you have really spent 99.9% of any of the revenue that you have coming in for that year, and it's being used for your operating budget. Except for those who understand the budget resolution, we do act somewhat conservatively on our revenue side because we do want to have surplus at the end of the year. But for the most part, you cannot during mid-year say, I would like to raise taxes to buy or pay for A or B. We need a consultant. We need to get a special attorney. We need all these different items for expenditure. So what we did was, knowing the way municipal finance works, we put away some funds into this, what we call one-time or unforeseen. So a one-time would be, oh, we have to do this study, okay? And it might be $50,000. It's not an operational budget item. It doesn't happen every year. It might happen every 5 years. It's not capital. It's not paying for an employee benefit, but it's one of these things outside the umbrella of your general operating budget. So we established that fund so that we could put that aside. So during the course of the year, the town manager has some ability to maneuver and manage when these types of things come up. Obviously, any expenditure out of any of these funds comes before this group, the subcommittee of the council, and the town council. No one has any authority to spend out of here without additional appropriation. And that's really the intent of these funds.
Thank you, Tony.
Any question? Anything I need to clarify I wasn't clear enough on? Please let me know.
Tony, I did have the capital stabilization fund.
Yep.
Since it looks like it's getting the lion's share of the funds, I
Yep.
wanted to actually try to connect this back to the capital plan that you and Michael were working on. I remember, we were working on a little bit prior to my departure back in 18. Will some of this money actually go towards helping to fund some of the things that were being discussed and actually proposed in that 5-year capital plan?
Absolutely, and they already have. So any money that has gone into this fund in the past has funded the capital plan. And then again, I call it pay-as-you-go type mostly equipment and/or what we would call minor repairs and upkeep. So example would be painting the town hall, having it primed, scraped, and painted might be a $50,000 bill, but we don't have that in our operating budget because it happens every 5 years. So we have used funds from this fund for things such as that, as well as police vehicles, snow plows. And yes, we have done that. And you will see, and if you'd like, I think if you ask Josh, he should be able to point you to the capital improvement program document that was issued back, I think, February, March. And it looks 6 years out, I believe.
Excellent.
I just had a quick question, Tony. I know you had mentioned, if we were curious about any of the receipts where some of this stuff came from, some of the funds came from. About half of it came from CARES and the American Rescue Plan stuff. Is that?
Nope.
No.
No. Local receipts, the major categories for local receipts are motor vehicle excise,
Okay.
licenses and permits. And those two alone represent almost, so $4 million on the local receipts, about 750. So those represent close to 80% of our local receipts. There are other types of local receipts like meals tax, rooms tax, the penalties and interest that we collect on certain tax bills or motor vehicle excise tax bills is considered a local receipt. Like I said, licenses and permits, fines and forfeitures, all of those are considered local receipts. And you'll see that this year when we go to do the sources and uses document. And I would ask that Josh points you to the documents from last year in the budget book, because you'll see where these local receipts reside in our planning process and all the different categories. As it relates to CARES money or opera money, the only thing that did for us is it helped reduce some of our expenditure items, because we were able to fund some of those items that would normally come through our operating budget through CARES, because they were CARES eligible. So if we were to break this down, $1.2 million of this 4.2 or 4.3 was due to appropriations that weren't spent, and $3 million roughly is from those local receipts examples that I gave you. 1.2 came from motor vehicle, 750,000 from licenses. We had surplus in meals of 245. Now there's a caveat here. So remember when we went into FY21, we didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. So we became very conservative on our local receipts numbers, because we didn't know the impact it was going to have on car sales. We didn't know the impact that it was going to have on building permits. We didn't know the impact it was going to have on meals tax and so forth. So we budgeted very conservatively in FY21, and that's where this surplus is coming from. But it's important to remember we used $1.6 million from our stabilization to offset that very conservative revenue estimating, to ensure that we would have a balanced budget at the end of FY21. So there were a lot of moving parts in FY21. So an example would be, we didn't know we were going to have $4 million in local receipts for motor vehicle. So we only budgeted for 2.8 million. And how did we make up that money to balance our budget and going in to that year? We used free cash. We used undesignated fund balance. And so we were replacing that with hedging our bet that we wanted to make sure we had a revenue surplus at the end of the year. What we also have already done is we already replenished that stabilization fund money that we had taken out. So you can see there's a lot of moving parts, but the bottom line is we have $4.3 million to the positive, and we're going to be able to use a huge chunk of this on our capital projects that we need to fund. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah, it definitely did, Tony. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, does anybody else have any questions for Tony on this matter? Anybody?
Make a
Okay, thank
motion
you.
to approve.
Okay, thank you,
Second.
Chris. Thank you, MJ. You get a first and a second. Did you get that, Josh?
Yep.
Okay, and if you want to do a roll call for us, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, additional items, just real quickly, don't want to hang everybody up any longer than we have to. Tony, I did send you a message. Hopefully you and I can get together here in the future and kind of work on the budget calendar like we had last year.
Yes, did you get an email from Michelle Rhoda, which gave you last year's calendar, and she was going to schedule a meeting with you? Did you get that?
I have not, Tony. You know, and I was also thinking too, that maybe we should have Dennis Gallagher in on that conversation too, if we can, right?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So why don't I talk with her tomorrow?
Okay.
And then I will have her work through Josh to schedule something.
Okay, that works. You know, I think last year we started to work with this budget calendar, probably about halfway through, actually, I think before the light bulb went off.
Mhm.
But it certainly turned out to be a much clearer pathway, even though it is a dynamic calendar, because things do move around, because
Yep.
there are some moving parts during budget season. But I think it just helped everybody see it in front of us and to see, you know, the step by step that was happening.
Absolutely. We will make sure I put it on her list to do, and I'll be touching base with her tomorrow, and we make sure we get that going.
Okay, and I know last year we were a little late with the budget resolution, but I think that was just changes in the committee, et cetera. You know, this year, obviously, now the budget resolution, I'm gonna steal your terminology here, Tony. Ends up being is a guidepost, is that how you
Yeah,
explain it,
I
Tony?
see it's a guidepost for the budget process.
For the budget process of the town manager and the town
Mhm.
council.
Yep.
Try to stay within as they come up with the upcoming year.
Yep.
Okay, and you know, one other thing I just wanted to ask was, I know that an email was sent out for some of the newer members to get together with you and do, you know, an orientation, quote unquote.
Yep.
Has that
Josh,
happened?
yeah, I think Josh has the day or the evening.
Yeah, I have a list of the members that were interested and just working out the details for the timing, just so we can include as many people as possible.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Okay, next meeting too. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up real quick during additional comments? Okay, so
I
I guess,
just want to express my appreciation for Tony and all the information that he provides, and then obviously his willingness to sit with us newer members to educate us.
No problem, guys. There's a lot of
Yeah.
information, so you're welcome.
I too
I
would
know
like to thank Tony for visiting with us tonight and, you know, sharing more what we need for information. Hopefully I can stop by the office some point, and chat with you about a few other things too.
That'd be more than welcome, MJ.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll keep an eye out from that email, Tony. From
Yep.
who? Was it Michelle you said?
Yep, Michelle Rhoda, and I'll have Josh, if you can get that in the minutes, and if you can even do a, you know, from your side, follow up with her, we'll get it going both directions. We'll make it happen.
Definitely.
Great.
Okay, great. So let's just talk about next meeting real quick. I know we kind of went off. So I guess the town council is going to meet on the 19th, correct, Josh?
Yep.
So the 27th would be our next potential date, but you can't do the 27th, is that correct?
No, I can't.
Okay. All right, at the end of the day, we can still, well, who would host them?
So we could get somebody to just drop in and start the meeting for you, and whoever's the most comfortable would just have to host and take minutes.
Okay. Does anybody have an issue with meeting on the 27th? even though we won't have Josh with us.
Oh, no issue.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so let's say the 27th, Josh.
Okay.
All right. I thought you said, yeah, you could actually just step in real quick and start the meeting for us.
You know, and actually, if you guys wanted to meet a little bit earlier that day, if you were okay with that, I could possibly post it and everything for you. Let me just double check what time they're meeting. CPC here.
Can we move to 6:30? Would that work, sir?
Or even,
So they actually start at 6:30.
Okay,
So if you guys were able to meet at 6, you know, I mean, most of the meetings seem to go about a half hour. And
I
just
can-
depending on,
I can do 6 and 8, if that helps.
6 on Wednesday. How about MJ, Chris, Leah?
I
Rig?
don't have a problem with the timing. I mean, if you guys even want to try for like 10, 15 minutes earlier, just so, because I know tonight's meeting is only about 35, 40 minutes. I mean, if we want to do that, I'm more than happy to. I get out of work at 4:30, so I'm usually back at my home at 4:45.
yeah, and
Six
then
works best for me.
worst case scenario, if it did start running a little later, which you guys are more than welcome to, I would just make somebody else the host and then they would just continue on. Nothing else would be needed.
Okay,
I'm fine with earlier too, yep.
all right, so 6 PM, is that what we said?
Yep, I can definitely do 6 PM for you guys.
I mean, we could do 5:45, I guess, but I suppose we could take over. Let's say 6 PM, and if we go a little bit long, then I'm sure one of us can figure out how to finish it up. Sound
Okay.
good?
Yep, sounds good.
Alrighty. So that's, I don't have anything else, and if we don't hear anything else, we could entertain a motion.
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Yeah, the favorite motion of the night, right? All right.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. If you could give us a roll call, please, Josh.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Leah,
Hi.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Everyone have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Take care.